This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. Hey folks, it is clear that DeFi is continuing to drive innovation and growth in the crypto space. The Crypto Conversation sponsor BitGet has dived deep into DeFi with the recent evolution of the BitGet wallet, a self-custody multi-chain DeFi wallet. You can think of the BitGet wallet as the integration of some of the best parts of decentralized finance or DeFi with the BitGet exchange, centralized finance or CeFi structure. And it's more than just secure storage. One of the most important aspects of the Web3 BitGet wallet is BitGet Swap, which supports tokens from more than 90 different blockchains and offers cross-chain compatibility across 17 different chains. BitGet Swap aggregates liquidity across 100 DEXs and leverages intelligent routing mechanisms to provide users with the best trading prices across different protocols. So try the BitGet wallet. Download the app today. I've put a link in the show notes, or just go to web3.bitget.com. All right. Well, thank you to BitGet. And now it is on with the show. My guests today are Marco Krohn and Anthony Jefferies. They are two of the authors of a new book called Decrypting Money, a comprehensive introduction to Bitcoin. Very exciting. Welcome, Marco, and welcome, Anthony.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi.
you very much.
Pleasure to have you here, gentlemen. Let's do what we do at the beginning of the show. I think it would be good if we could get just a little bit of background on both of you. So, Marco, we'll do you first. Could you please just introduce yourself? Love to hear just a little bit about your, I suppose, personal and professional backstory, just the short version of what has led you to linking up with Anthony and your co-authors and authoring this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Originally, I studied theoretical physics, mathematics, and I also did a little bit of economics. Switched over then in 2005-06 over to the dark side. So I worked for an investment bank. So I thought kind of at the point in time where I first discovered Bitcoin in 2011, I thought I know quite a bit about money by then, and also about mathematics, of course. But I didn't get Bitcoin in the beginning. I'm quite honest. I read about it and I thought like, wow, this is crazy. Money has to come from a state. It can't kind of like a virtual currency generated by some anonymous guy. This can't work. And I was completely wrong. Yeah, I realized, luckily, I read more about it in the next few days and then completely changed my mind from like, this can't work to a, wow, that's unbelievable. And in the early days, it was 2011, 12, the Bitcoin community was extremely small. There were small Bitcoin meetups in different cities. I lived at Munich at that point in time. And that's how I got into contact with Marco Streng and some other people. I also later met Anthony there. And together we founded several companies. And the most important one, I think, kind of back in the days was Genesis Mining, which was a cloud mining company. But then later on, we found a different company called, which is purely focused on Bitcoin mining, called Genesis Digital Assets, one of the largest Bitcoin miners in the world. And yeah, several more companies since then.
Thank you very much, Marco and Anthony. Yeah, same thing, please. Could we just have a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So my background educationally, I have a degree in mathematics and a PhD in mechanical engineering. I then went to Germany and worked for some time in the automotive here doing calculations. And during that time, I met a mutual friend of Marco and ours, Christian Handel, who introduced me to Bitcoin in about 2013. Again, I had like Marco, I didn't have much background in money or what the properties of it are. But through Christian, I've got to learn about Bitcoin And later on, he introduced me then to Marco, and we did one or two things together, including working on a cryptocurrency exchange at some point. And after that project, we had always wanted to write a book together. So yeah, Marco had been working on that project before. We had I joined him later, and then over years we were trying to get together our ideas, and slowly it came together, and this year it came out.
Yeah, very good. Okay, well then, yeah, let's hear a little bit more about the background to the book. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this if I hold it up with my dodgy Zoom background. Not really, but that is the cover of the book. I'll certainly put a link to the website, which is simply called decryptingmoney.com. The book, of course, is called Decrypting Money, A Comprehensive Guide to Bitcoin. I do, as you can see, folks, I'm trying to hold up a physical copy. I do have a physical copy here. And you guys were kind enough to send me a few copies. So I read it when it arrived, which was, to be fair, about 2 months ago or something like that. And I think, listeners, if you keep listening during the show, we will give one or two of these books away as well. But yeah, well, let's rewind a little bit, Marco and Anthony. Yeah, so you guys are obviously reasonably old school Bitcoiners in terms of being around, not necessarily from the beginning, but perhaps longer than most. Obviously kept in touch with Bitcoin right the way through and become passionate Bitcoiners along the way, so much so that you've decided to write this book. So why this book, and why now?
Maybe I can answer that one. We realize there are kind of a number of books out there. Of course, there is excellent, very detailed literature like Mastering Bitcoin from Andreas Antonopoulos. Excellent work, but it's more like for computer scientists or people that really want to deep dive, have a very deep dive into the internals of the system. And then there is a lot of books like Bitcoin for Dummies that explain to you like how to use a wallet, how to set up an exchange account, etc. What we had, I think, more in mind was like telling a little bit a story about kind of like what is money, what are the properties of money, and then why does Bitcoin have very good properties as a type of money, and what are the consequences of going from centralized money to decentralized money. Yeah, so identifying that centralized, or that one of the biggest shortcomings of various types of money is kind of that they are centralized. And then as a consequence, Satoshi Nakamoto decided like, okay, centralized money doesn't work. We need to decentralize it. But this comes with a bag of problems. And then we get into proof of work and mining and Nakamoto consensus and double spending and so on. So there's kind of like really kind of this little change from centralized to decentralized brings us actually to the forefront of computer science, distributed systems. And this is also one of those major achievements. So we wanted to tell that story kind of like very much like someone who is reading the famous book from Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. Brief History of Time. Who is kind of like interested in astrophysics and general relativity, but don't want to go into all the mathematics of it, but have a high level understanding about kind of what all of this is about. And that was the idea for the book, like give a high level overview, how Bitcoin works and how to embed it in the greater framework of what is money and how does Bitcoin fit in here.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you, Marco. And Anthony, there's actually 4 of you listed as the authors. There's you two gentlemen, and also Marco Streng, of course, and Zoran Balkic. So how does that work, Anthony, with, I suppose, the 4 of you teaming up to write the book? Do you all choose different chapters and topics and collaborate in that way?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, you're right. I mean, the book is a collaboration. We have 4 authors, and four authors have all brought, I would say, their strengths to the book. So different. Some of it, I mean, some of it is a bit mixed together. I would say some chapters are more teamwork, where more than one of us have worked on it together, or one of us have worked on it, and then another person has then edited it quite severely. And then there's other parts of the book where someone with more higher specialization on one topic has really concentrated and produced that part. So yeah, it's been a collaboration, and I think all four authors have been also, as you say, all four authors have been in crypto for a fair amount of time. All four have brought their particular strengths to the book and continue to do so with the marketing efforts.
Yes, and Marco, I like the way that you talked about the need, I think, for a contemporary Bitcoin book to really place Bitcoin in its proper historical context in terms of, the history of money and decentralized versus centralized systems. And I think it was certainly relevant, when Satoshi first released the white paper quite a few years ago now, with the 2008 crisis that was happening then. But it seems even more relevant today. And I think with the problems that central banks, I suppose, are facing around the world, I think, Marco, do you agree that there's a much wider appreciation of, I suppose, the flaws and what we call the fiat money system today?
Yeah, there is. The funny thing, and that's what we are actually, the story we are telling in the book is, or maybe not so funny thing is, that these kind of problems exist for thousands of years. So as soon as you give control to the money supply to a central authority, which practically almost always is the case, this power is abused over time. So we are, for example, telling the story of the Roman silver coin, the denarii. And in the beginning, that's around, I think, 13 or so BC or AD, sorry, there was a decree by Emperor Augustus basically defining the properties of a Roman silver coin, saying like it has to be almost 4 grams and has to have a purity of, I think, 97, 98% of silver. But over time, of course, kind of Roman Empire expands. They are waging a lot of wars. They are having financial problems. And what do you do if the output of your silver mines is pretty much constant or can't scale very much? Well, you reduce the purity of the silver coins. So after 200 years, the Roman silver coin was 98% copper and with a very thin layer of silver on top of it, like 2%. So this kind of phenomenon you see over and over and over again in the history of money. Yeah, central power is corrupted, and they start printing money, in various ways, either by debasing it, or in case of fiat money, that's really the easiest. You can just kind of create money out of thin air. And Bitcoin is, as we all know, is kind of like a very different approach to money in that regard. Yes, you don't have the central control. You have a set of rules, and everyone has to stick to these rules. There is no way to just say like, oh, let's produce another million Bitcoin. No, it's 21 million. The rules and the mathematics is clear, and it is clear that no one can change it. And that's the power of Bitcoin.
Yeah, very much so. Look, 15 years or so into the Bitcoin experiment, it's funny to reflect back and interesting to see where we are now. I'm sure, in some ways it feels like we've come further than people expected we would in such a short time, both in terms of, I suppose, the adoption and use of Bitcoin around the world, and also in the rapid appreciation of the price of Bitcoin versus different fiat currencies, particularly US currency. But but it can still seem like slow going, when the price is not going anywhere and we're kind of in the crypto bear market at the moment. So, but all these things are true at the same time. How do you guys think about I guess the path of Bitcoin to date, and has it happened faster than you would have thought initially?
Crypto and Bitcoin, it's a new asset class, and so it's very difficult to have a kind of precedent to say how long or how quickly it should the uptake should take. There's no real good guidelines or way to adjust it. I would say, given crypto's novelty, it's actually of course, there has been pushback from the side of government and regulators, but they've actually been probably more open to it than I would have originally anticipated. I think, you have a situation now where you have quite some integration of Bitcoin into conventional financial markets. I think for of course, for the average user, for the person on the street using it as a medium of exchange, of course, it's not available to use in every shop and on every online store yet. But I think every day which goes by, Bitcoin proves its worth long term as a store of value, and slowly it adopts the properties of money. So I would say, considering its novelty and it's actually, I would be quite satisfied how it's been going.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, Anthony. It's a remarkable journey. I mean, Bitcoin almost died at the very beginning because very few people understood what this is about. It got pretty much unnoticed because it was such a niche field of cypherpunks that looked into this at the very beginning. When I started with Bitcoin, Bitcoin price was around $10, and I started buying some of them. And then over the next few months, the price dropped to $2. And of course, the headlines everywhere were Bitcoin, nice idea, but it couldn't work. Here is why. Yeah. So, and I've seen this type of news all the time. Given where we started in 2009 and then I entered in 2011, and where we are now, it's absolutely insane. Yeah, sure. As Anthony correctly said, it would be great if everyone would only use a Bitcoin by now also for daily payments. But yeah, there were things that we found out, like over time, that scalability of Bitcoin doesn't work, and generally of these systems that use Nakamoto consensus doesn't work very well. That's what it is, but people found ways around it. Yeah, for Bitcoin, there's a Lightning Network. For Ethereum, there are these roll-up solutions. So people now kind of like found technical solutions for that. And although Bitcoin is pretty much at the moment a store of value and not a medium of exchange, I'm pretty optimistic this is going to change over time. And I mean, it's now legal tender in one country. Let there be a second and a third country joining that, and you can easily kind of like shift or use the same medium of exchange in different countries. That would be amazing. Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing. So I'm very optimistic, kind of like, yeah, we are on this trajectory, but it's basically pretty much unstoppable.
Yeah, very well said. Very well said. And look, I very much agree, and I share the sentiment that I think it's amazing how much progress really has been made in a decade and a half. And I think the genie is out of the bottle, as people like to say, and it is kind of unstoppable. As much as you guys don't get too technical in the book, you do go into some detail in terms of, for example, how Bitcoin mining works, and some of the different equations that back up mining. One of them, of course, is the Bitcoin halving schedule. And, funnily enough, we are coming up to the next Bitcoin halving, which I think is the fourth Bitcoin halving, isn't it? So that's roughly 200 days away, give or take a few days. either side. So sometime in April next year, I think. And of course, this will be interesting because it will bring headlines back to Bitcoin, because of course the media will want to talk about it, and whether or not the next Bitcoin halving can kind of help kick off the next Bitcoin bull cycle. These things have happened in the past and people do enjoy these narratives. But yeah, how do you guys think about the upcoming Bitcoin halving?
What is there to say? I mean, Satoshi Nakamoto brought in the halving every 210,000 blocks, and it will happen. Of course, as you say, it's only the fourth halving to happen. So, from a sort of statistical basis, it's not really possible to say yes. What happened in the last three halvings will necessarily repeat in the next halving. Of course, as you are, of course, very well aware, the crypto industry changes so rapidly that really taking some lessons learned from previous years, well, you can look at it and think about it, but really to make a concrete prediction based on that is very difficult. I would just repeat what Marco says. I mean, we are obviously big believers in Bitcoin. We believe the adoption rate will continue to go up, but whether it will be linked to a particular event like a halving in the future, you can't say for certain. I think with Bitcoin, you can say unless there's some massive unexpected catastrophe, it will continue to be adopted and continue to be taken up. But making more short-term predictions, I would say, is always very sketchy.
Yes, indeed. Marco, any thoughts?
Yeah, pretty much what Anthony said. I think there was a little bit of a difference over time over the various halvings. I mean, as we know, kind of like if we have first the full cake and then half the cake and then a quarter of a cake, kind of the piece is just getting smaller. So while in the beginning, if you're producing 50 Bitcoins per block and there's just 1 million Bitcoins out there was a massive inflation, right? Kind of a massive, I mean, although everyone knows kind of what the rules are and how the money supply is working, there is a difference because the inflation is just very, very high on the beginning, massive amount of new supply. While now we are, I think, kind of down to like 1.7% or so of inflation, in terms of money supply. So the next halving, this brings it down like from 1.7 then to 0.8 or 0.9%. So, but that is not kind of like a huge change in the perception of Bitcoin supply. So I think kind of from that perspective, I'm optimistic that the price, as Anthony said, will go up over time because more people get involved. But I'm actually more interested now, kind of what's happening with the Bitcoin ETFs and SEC approval. I'm very much looking forward to that, because if this becomes an easily tradable commodity for the financial markets, that is, I think, kind of like a big breakthrough and much more interesting than the halving from my perspective. I mean, price-wise. About one last thought about the Bitcoin mining. I think kind of the biggest impact is, of course, on Bitcoin mining. Yeah, as usual, it's although you can kind of plan ahead. It's the hash rate is very high. There's a lot of mining equipment in circulation, still from the last hype cycle, and this is gonna be tough. Yeah, this is gonna be tough for a lot of Bitcoin miners. We from Genesis Digital Assets, we have been planning for this day for a very long time. Very much looked into highest efficiency. Yeah, we always knew kind of like lowest electricity prices and very efficient mining equipment is the key to go through this next cycle. But the pressure is on for the Bitcoin miners, and long term, of course, there's the question is like, who is financing the the Bitcoin mining because it's an essential. It's not just many people think Bitcoin mining is just a gimmick. It's just kind of some nice add-on to make it more interesting. No, it is the central part to keep it decentralized. It is absolutely important to have Bitcoin mining.
Yes, it certainly is so important. And that was going to be what I talked about next, Marco. But you've done it. It is the halving will effectively cut in half Bitcoin miners' profits overnight, and unless or until the Bitcoin price goes up. Bitcoin miners will certainly take a hit, and of course the least efficient miners will be the first ones that are essentially forced to unplug their machines and
Yes.
wait until it becomes profitable again. Just on Bitcoin mining, because I know Marco, you have a history in the Bitcoin mining industry. Just curious as to your thoughts on. Bitcoin mining traditionally has been easily criticizable for being, an energy suck, right? Dirty energy, the coal plants in China and so on. And slowly but surely, I think it's fair to say the Bitcoin mining industry has been moving to more renewable energy, particularly I think that's the case in the US. But just as not to sidetrack too much, but as the different effects of climate change do sort of make their way around the world, we want Bitcoin mining to continue, and we don't want governments to find an easy way to attack Bitcoin mining. How do you think about that?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Bitcoin mining wastes intentionally a lot of electricity and energy and resources. Let's be quite frank about that. It's not just energy, it's also the electronic waste produced by all this mining equipment. It is also quite significant. Having said that, it's kind of ironic. Electric cars, so having great electric cars is a good thing. Having great money, which uses electricity as well, is all of a sudden a bad thing. We should embrace Bitcoin because it helps the economy to save so much money. It's so much more efficient. People all of a sudden have an interest in not spending their money but keeping their Bitcoins. I think kind of like the overall amount of electricity that is used for Bitcoin is compared to the overall consumption. We are talking about 0.1% or so of the global energy consumption. It's just ridiculously small. In addition, you can see that Bitcoin miners, including us from GDA, very much made an effort to switch over to the wind, solar, other renewable sources. Kind of the percentage of renewable energy used for Bitcoin mining is increasing. As you probably all are aware, the US is one of the leading Bitcoin miners by now. And for example, in Texas, wind and solar electricity, in particular wind, is cheaper than coal. Yeah, which is great news. I mean, the best thing that can happen to all of us is that people are not forced to use something, but it makes economic sense for them to go into a renewable source like wind electricity from wind power, because it's the cheapest energy source. So I'm pretty optimistic that all of these things can be solved, and that the contribution to climate change from Bitcoin is ridiculously small. And let's not forget, I'm also very open-minded about other systems, right? I mean, of course, Bitcoin, we all know, is pretty much stuck now to proof of work, and it's not going to change. But there has been great innovations also in other areas. I just want to mention, like, there's various proof of stake protocols now, like most famously Ethereum switched over from proof of work to proof of stake. And also there, kind of in proof of stake, innovation happened. In 2008, there was a Snowflake protocol. So lots of interesting things are happening there as well.
Yeah, great thoughts. And of course, you're right. It's ironic that people attack Bitcoin for being a waste of energy when, you name it, any industry, video gaming, the traditional banking system, whatever, they all consume far more energy than proof of work. In the book, gentlemen, you have there's a foreword by Gary Kasparov. I think that's how you say his name, isn't it? And he talks about, he starts the book with a foreword, and he talks about a thought experiment. Imagine you're a dissident fighting for democracy in Venezuela, and the government controls access to financial services, and people that are anti the government can really have their bank accounts censored or cut off. And he talks about how this is not necessarily a thought experiment, and this is in fact real life for citizens around the world who, for one reason or another, have fallen foul of their governments or dictators or whoever is in charge. This is kind of where Bitcoin thrives first, right? And in these kind of places, and it's by necessity, right?
Yes. Yes, I think that's absolutely a great use case. As you probably know, Gary Kasparov is the number one, or was for a very long time, number one world chess player in the world. He's an absolutely legend and very much involved in human rights activities. He's a human rights activist, also co-founder of the Human Rights Foundation. So they're doing incredible work, bringing dissidents together from all over the world, giving them a forum to speak. But of course, there is also the question of like how to finance someone who lives in Venezuela or in some other country where it is difficult, and the government pretty much controls everything. And Bitcoin is a great use case there, yeah, because you can't. I mean, we have also seen that there's the same thing with WikiLeaks. Right, I think kind of WikiLeaks also got cut off from the traditional payment system, so you couldn't donate money anymore. And yeah, Bitcoin was a great way kind of to circumvent that, to route around that, and help organizations that are otherwise not able to finance themselves.
Yeah, very much so. And so, how you've also got there's like a little nice quote from Michael Saylor and some others as well, Gary, of course, who we've talked about. How did you get the support of the likes of Gary Kasparov and Michael Saylor?
Well, we've been involved in various projects around the world. So kind of like not just Genesis mining, Genesis digital assets. We've also built a cloud computing infrastructure called Genesis Cloud. So but over time, basically you meet a lot of people there. So yeah, there's kind of like people, and in particular, Marco Streng is very well connected. He has been kind of basically to every conference all around the world. So he knows a lot of people, and yeah, he knows all of them really kind of like, I mean, it's everyone kind of who wrote something in the book or for the book is someone that we actually know, yeah.
And well, as we start to finish off, gentlemen, is the book out? The book is out and the book is available. So, tell people, again, just remind people why they should get the book and or if they should buy a book, perhaps for a present for someone who they think needs an introduction to Bitcoin, and where should they get the book from?
Yeah, I mean, the book is out. It's been out since June. The easiest way for anyone to buy it is simply on the Amazon site. There's a link to the Amazon site on our website. Who the book is for? Well, it's for someone who wants to know Bitcoin a little bit more than the surface without going into the very deep mathematical details. And for someone who prefers to read a book. I mean, there's many people, I think, for example, of my father's generation, people who are like the so-called baby boomer generation, they prefer to read books. They may see some article in a newspaper or something on TV. Oh, this is Bitcoin. I think our book is aimed at people like them who've heard about it and want something. As Marco says, we, the authors, have been in crypto for some time. We've done various different things in it, and this is a book from practitioners in the industry to say, without going into sort of polemics, or some actors in the industry which are fairly sort of emotional about it. We have our position, but we try and also take a little bit less polemic view than others. So yeah, I mean, for me, I would say it does make a good present. It's also, I mean, it's available in all three formats: hardback, paperback, and also a Kindle version. And if you know someone who is genuinely interested to learn a bit more about crypto, and also we go into the history of money. I mean, we talk about we start off with what Marco described in his introduction about first learning simply what money is, and then why Bitcoin is money, and then what Bitcoin is. So we also go into sort of the necessary knowledge which you need to have, or which is very useful to really understand Bitcoin to start with.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Anthony. And I said we'd give a couple of copies of the book away. So let's do that. I've got a couple of copies here. So I think if we just, listeners, just drop me an email, andy@bravenewcoin.com. And we should do a teaser skill question, I suppose. So maybe just tell us what year was the Satoshi's white paper first published. Send me an email with your answer, and we'll send out a couple of books to a couple of people. All right, well, time to finish off. Marco, I guess it'd be nice maybe just to finish off. I'd love to hear your reflections just really on, I suppose, the genius of Satoshi. It feels like a nice way to finish a podcast about a Bitcoin book, because, famously, Satoshi's identity remains unknown and presumably will remain unknown. The Satoshi coins remain unspent, will presumably remain unspent. But yeah, it was just, it's kind of the story of Satoshi and Bitcoin is almost, it's, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, right?
Yeah. It certainly also attracts people, kind of, if you can tell the story of this mysterious founder or founders. No one really knows who he or she or this group is. When we did research for the book, there were a few points that I also learned that were new to me. I mean, back in the days, I was basically reading everything I could find online. But there's from time to time you find new pieces about Satoshi. Recently, now one of these very early emails came up that he wrote to, I think, to Dai about Bitcoin. And then there was some information that we also kind of doing the research for the book found, namely the programming language he used for this Bitcoin script language is very much similar. I forgot the name, to a programming language that existed before. And this language was used and taught in particular in the UK school system. So that was one interesting piece. The other thing I didn't know is this headline in the Times that is famously embedded in the Genesis blog. I always assumed this was like that also on the internet. It turned out this headline never was on the internet. So you had to actually kind of like get your hands on a physical newspaper to know kind of what the actually headline is. So these pieces are interesting. I mean, he did brilliant work. And what people probably don't realize is there was this long-standing problem in computer science that he actually solved about it's called the Byzantine generals problems. Like, how do I reach consensus in a decentralized system? Yeah, the one solution existed from I think 1999, but he with the Nakamoto consensus, he found a completely new solution for that, and that is absolutely genius.
Absolutely. Yeah, pulled together a few different pieces of cryptography, solved the Byzantine generals problem, and of course did some incredible sleight of hand, maybe to lay some various clues as to whether he was based in America or the UK. A lot of it is probably sleight of hand and false breadcrumbs, and managed to disappear. An incredible feat, really.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's you and that's important what you said, and we are also kind of mentioning it in the book. The building blocks that he used for building the system, you're absolutely right. These are very well established blocks in the cryptography. So the SHA-256 and the public-private key system and so on. So he just combined these blocks in a very creative way to build the system. That's important.
Might be the NSA, Marco. You never know. Anyway, that feels like a nice place to finish. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Anthony and Marco. Listeners, of course, the book is called Decrypting Money, a comprehensive guide to Bitcoin. Just go to decryptingmoney.com to find all the links, more info on the book. Email me if you want to win a copy. Thank you, Anthony, and thank you, Marco. All the best, and bye for now. All right, we're still here, folks, because Marco just wanted to explain that the book is also published under a Creative Commons license, Marco. So what does that mean?
Yes. Creative Commons is the license also kind of Wikipedia is under. License created by the Professor Lawrence Lessig. It basically means you can take a copy of the book, distribute it. For us, it was very important to spread the knowledge about how Bitcoin works and what sound money looks like and how Bitcoin was derived. So this is not, we practically earn like a few cents with the book, spend a lot of more on it. For us, it's really just kind of like giving something back to the community and to the people that are interested to learn. And we're also kind of like preparing translations in various languages, like Mandarin and Amharic, which is in Ethiopia. So we also want to reach kind of like people that are not having the chance, maybe participating in all of that, because, well, not everyone speaks English. So yeah, we are making an effort here really kind of like to help people get information about Bitcoin and how these decentralized systems work. Yeah.
I like it. Let the book go. Information wants to be free. Thank you, gentlemen. All the best, and bye for now.
Oh, this is a full-time job. Crypto markets really are 24/7. Oh, Elon's tweeted again about Dogecoin. I don't have the time to research the technical indicators of Dogecoin. What are you doing?
I just use CopyTrader on BitGet. One click and I'm copying the trades from an experienced crypto trader. Then it just gives me all the time in the world to watch my favorite Netflix shows and do all my favorite activities.
I've been up for 24 hours, I've had 16 cups of coffee, 8 energy drinks, and that bird noise is getting on my last nerve.
I think you need to go to bed.
Yeah, I need to go to bed.
Hands off, gains up. Start copy trading on BitGet.
All right, there you go. That was Marco and Anthony. Yeah, Decrypting Money. Great book. Cool to see some old school Bitcoiners just, doing their bit to give back to the global Bitcoin community by writing a book and essentially giving it away, by making it available to whoever wants one. You can buy them, of course, as well, but also published under Creative Commons. So, yeah, good to see. Please do email me if you want a copy, Andy at braveviewcoin.com. All right. Well, thank you for listening to another episode of The Crypto Conversation. Thanks to BitGet, our sponsor. Thanks to you for listening. See you next time. This was The Crypto Conversation for Brave New Coin. See ya.